What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of our Aggie Sports Zoom Hangouts. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle. We're here with the whole Eagle team. We got Robert Cessna somewhere on the screen. Alex Miller's over there as well. But we have the great Michael Lananna with us this week from the state. Going to talk some South Carolina football. How's life in South Carolina now, man?
It's good. I'm glad that we have sports going on. I'm hopeful we'll see how things go with the pandemic and how things evolve. But, it has been nice to see some college football, to follow the South Carolina team. It's been an interesting team, to say the least. It's been kind of an up and down year so far for the Gamecocks.
Now, Michael isn't a stranger to Aggie land. Back in 2017, when he was writing for Baseball America, he was down here covering the Super Regional with Davidson. So he knows a little bit about Aggie land and what goes on down here.
Yeah, and that was a really fun experience. I mean, I was blown away by the atmosphere at that Super Regional. I was able to experience that Super Regional in the Davidson dugout. I was able to sit in the dugout during those games while I was working on that feature, which was just for one, it was just a cool experience, just a cool life experience, but also just to experience what the players were feeling as road players in that environment, I thought was pretty incredible. It was cool to see. And so it feels so foreign now with just this limited capacities at all these stadiums now, just to think about how many people were packed in there and cheering on the team.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about that, Michael, home field advantage. A lot of people say A&M has the home field advantage, even with only 22, 25. I've been to South Carolina. That's a different atmosphere. Even the A&M players have talked about it. Now, what about with the COVID? I know they beat Auburn, a huge win the last time at home. How much of an advantage is it for the playing at home right now, or is it an advantage?
It has been, I would say, good fan turnout to this point. They've mostly gotten to their attendance goals, or at least as far as what their limits are in terms of capacity, but it certainly, it isn't the same. I mean, there's a clear difference. It is a lot more subdued compared to years past, obviously, because you're not having the full capacity of fans in the stadium. So, I think that you're really not going to see as much as a home field advantage as you normally would. I think the Auburn game is just a case of just South Carolina just finding a way to win and making just key defensive plays in that game.
What are you looking for in this matchup between Texas A&M-South Carolina? What stands out to you the most about where South Carolina is right now in the season and what they're going to bring into this weekend?
Well, obviously, they're coming off a tough loss against LSU. That was a game that, going into it, strangely enough, you kind of had South Carolina maybe winning that game just because they had won 2 straight games. They had just upset Auburn, and, LSU had started off, 1-2, and they just weren't able to get it done. And their biggest area where they struggled was stopping the running game. And that's something you listen to players talking about it today. And that's really the big point of emphasis for them going into this weekend against Texas A&M is, they're taking it as a challenge. These, players on the defense, I mean, they're taking it as a personal challenge. Can we stop the run? And obviously, the running game is something that, Texas A&M really likes to play through the running game. So I think that's going to be, for me, one of the key areas that I'm looking at, that battle.
Yeah, follow that up if we could, Michael. I always expect Muschamp to have a pretty good defense led by the run. So going into this, is it a lack of talent, a lack of experience, or LSU is just an anomaly?
Yeah, it is a little strange. I mean, the defense has had some moments this year where it's really shown some flashes. It really it seems like a lack of execution. I think the game plan too, just looking at how they start out going against a freshman quarterback, really weren't putting a ton of pressure on him. They were kind of playing back, deep zone, safeties back. And, I think LSU really took advantage of it. And I don't think the South Carolina defense really necessarily did a great job of adjusting back. And so, I do think, really where a lot of the talent is in that South Carolina defense is in the secondary. J.C. Horn is, a corner who, could be one of the top cornerbacks taken in the draft. And, he was really the reason why they beat Auburn. Just, he had 2 big interceptions in that game. Just a very talented guy, a shutdown corner. And, so they're really talented in the secondary. Ernest Jones, a linebacker, leads the team in tackles. He's been very good as well in terms of, if they've had a guy stop the run, he's been the guy. And so they just need more consistency. And, they've had some turnover on the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw obviously isn't there anymore. And so they've had to find some new pieces and try to, find the right arrangement to make that work. And so I think they're kind of still finding their identity on the defensive line.
In years past, the conversation has been between these two teams, the fact that A&M has just dominated this series. Has that still continued this year? Is that something they're still talking about, trying to get that elusive win, or has it been so many years now that it's kind of old news, I guess?
Yeah, I didn't hear a lot of that from players this week. I didn't hear a ton of emphasis on that. I think the biggest thing is just trying to reverse the momentum and try to, get things back on track after LSU, because that was a game that, it really felt like just could have been such a pivotal moment in their season, given just the momentum that they had built up. And then to drop that game the way they did, and then to go into bye with that bad taste in their mouth, I think it just, I think that's the biggest thing that they're focused on right now. And, it's going to be interesting to see what adjustments they make. Offensively, they really struggled, against LSU to really make anything happen. And I think, we have to see, how they're going to perform, in the running game in terms of stopping the Texas A&M running game, and then whether Colin Hill can get something going as a quarterback, because it seems like there could potentially be a somewhat short leash on Colin Hill at this point. So that's going to be really interesting to watch as well.
I have to take a quick break, and now that we're talking about the past games since the SEC, as the keeper of this tradition, unofficially, did you know this was a trophy game?
Oh, me? Yeah, I did not.
It's the Bonham Trophy, and it's never seen the light of day.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea. I did not.
All right, Cease, back to you.
Yeah, I was wanted to expound a little bit more. Being 1,200 miles away, I thought Colin, Helinski didn't do too bad last year. But then I understand a new offensive coordinator gone with Hill. Have you surprised that Hill has not been better than he's been?
Yeah, the big reason why Colin Hill won that job was, he came from Colorado State with Mike Bobo, who is now the offensive coordinator at South Carolina. And so he's someone who obviously already knows the offense, is very familiar with it. And there's already that element of trust between them. And that's something that I think was a big edge in terms of him winning the job. And he's just a guy too, just, 5 years of experience. I mean, I think he really won over the locker room more than anything, just because he's come back from 3 separate ACL tears, and just the willpower to come back from something like that. You're going to win over a lot of coaches and teammates and just earn their respect. But he's someone who, early on, the first couple of games when the offense was rolling, I mean, he seemed like he fit really well, in Mike Bobo's system. The offense seemed to be clicking. And then, all of a sudden, these last couple of games, just the wheels have been falling off just a little bit. In this last game against LSU, a couple of situations, he took 5 sacks, and there are a couple of situations where he could have gotten rid of the ball, or if perhaps there was a little bit more mobile quarterback back there, he could have extended the play. And so, there are a lot of rumblings. They have Helinski waiting in the wings there. And then they have Luke Doty, a freshman, a guy who is much more mobile, more of a dual threat guy. And both of those guys have been getting reps in practice, throughout this bye. And so, it's possible, they're still expressing confidence in Colin Hill as their quarterback. I mean, of course, they're going to do that. But, it is possible that, should he come out and struggle early, maybe they make a switch in this game. This could be a pivotal game for Colin Hill.
Yeah, you talk about pivotal, Michael. When I look, I remember Shi Smith. They've got some good receivers. I see Harris has put up good numbers at running back. Is the problem possibly the offensive line? Because A&M's got a pretty good active defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line certainly has struggled. It's had its fair share of struggles. And, clearly you take 5 sacks in a game. That's not all on the quarterback. I mean, there was a lot of pressure there, and LSU just kept applying pressure. And so the offensive line, in terms of pass protection especially, has done a poor job. Obviously, they've blocked well in the running game. I mean, I don't think Kevin Harris would have the numbers that he's had, if not for that. But yeah, and the offensive line is definitely an area that there has been some inconsistency. But, as a whole, the offense, I think, is just looking for, Kevin Harris has been rock solid. He's been a bell cow. I've personally been really impressed with just the leap he's taken this year. It's just a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He can be an every down back. He can catch third down passes. He can do everything. Shi Smith has been the guy at wide receiver, getting 10, 11, 12 targets a game, but they really don't have a second guy. And that's something that they've been searching for, as far as in the passing game goes. They really haven't. They have Jalen Brooks, a transfer who just got his eligibility waiver accepted by the NCAA before the LSU game. We weren't really able to work him in, but he's someone that you could see potentially on Saturday. He's a guy who has experience, has a lot of speed, but it's really been the Shi Smith and Kevin Harris show at this point. I mean, they get the bulk of the touches.
I'm going to steal one of Cease's normal questions. What do you see South Carolina needs to do Saturday to win the game? And do they cover the spread?
Yeah, I think, again, it's going to come down to, can they stop the running game? I mean, I think that's, Texas A&M is going to put up rushing yards. It's going to happen, but can you limit the damage? Can you get big stops when you need to? And then it's also comes down to, did the offense make the necessary adjustments to, unleash and properly utilize Colin Hill and to properly utilize the weapons around him? And so, I think, honestly, coming off the bye with the work that they've put in with just knowing Mike Bobo and just the offense itself, I do think the offense has shown enough flashes for me where I do think they'll cover the spread. I do think that they could make things interesting. They have made things interesting so far in the SEC, more interesting than I think a lot of people expected. So yeah, I think I have a good feeling about South Carolina. I'm not going to say that they're going to win, but I do think that they're going to play better than they did against LSU.
Always interested, the local media, so to speak, big picture. How big is this game for Muschamp? If you lose off open week, you're 2-4. It's COVID. A lot of people say people don't get fired, what have you. But A&M, they haven't beaten A&M. Just how big a game is this? Do you feel for Muschamp?
I don't think his seat is as warm as, it has been or has, people have said it's been in the past. I think, they do seem to, Ray Tanner seems to be a fan of his. I mean, they do seem to really enjoy having him here and him leading that program. And, to be fair, it seems like he's done a good job as far as just, navigating this team through the pandemic and through COVID. I really haven't seen COVID pop up much at all on this team. So it seems like everyone's following the safety protocols and all of that. And so I think, like you said, I think because of the nature of the way things are right now with the pandemic and with everything going on, I feel like his seat isn't super warm right now. I feel like, he's got this season to kind of figure things out. And then I think, next season, if things, go back to normal around the world, there might be more of a possibility that, his job could be a little bit more at risk. So that's sort of my sense of things right now.
Now, I know this doesn't necessarily affect A&M on the football field this weekend, but you also keep tabs on Clemson out there in South Carolina, someone who's right above A&M in the polls. Do you see them as a team who has a loss in them at all? I know this is a big weekend for them as well with playing Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'm working on a story on DJ. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. I'm just not going to pretend to know that I pronounce it. It's just, we all know who I'm talking about right now. I'm working on a feature on him, and I like him. I think I don't think he's going to shy away from the moment. I think just because Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, I don't think it's, going to be as big of a drop off as you would anticipate when, you lose the best quarterback in the country. And so I think it's going to be an interesting game for sure. I think obviously Notre Dame is probably pretty excited that they don't have to face Trevor Lawrence. So, I think it's going to go down to the wire, but, obviously, there is the chance. There's always the chance, but I just have this feeling just from talking to the kid this week, just how calm and composed he is, just his makeup and just seeing his talent, just his sheer arm talent and arm strength. Like, I think he's going to do well this weekend, and I think Clemson's going to keep the perfect record alive.
You like covering Will Muschamp? How's that? I mean, you got Frank Martin. You got women's basketball #1 in the country. I mean, Clemson #1 in football. You got a lot to write about.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I like a lot about this job, coming here to work for the state. I'm grateful that they give me the opportunity to do a lot of different things, wear a few different hats. I do some non-sports feature writing too, working on some projects there. Especially with COVID and everything going on. So so far I've enjoyed covering Will Muschamp and covering the football team. I think a lot of interesting personalities. I do like talking to Colin Hill, the quarterback. I think he does give really thoughtful, honest answers. Frank Martin, obviously huge personality, and I'll be following the men's basketball team this year. Used to cover UNC basketball and ACC basketball a few years ago. So, it's going to be it's going to be a little different from covering Roy at UNC, but, Frank's got he's fun to talk to. He's got such a big personality that it's just, you can't not be entertained when you're talking to him. So yeah, I mean, great sports in this area. And, and really without any professional teams here, I mean, it's just people are so invested in college sports in South Carolina. And so it's really cool that you get that fan interest and you get people engaged with the work that you're doing. And just obviously when things are normal, the fan atmosphere is usually great too, and very loud. So yeah, I'm excited for the game this weekend. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup.
I was wondering if you're going to get a North Carolina drop in this Zoom call. So glad we checked that off the box. Anyway, well, hey man, Cease, you got anything else?
I was going to say South Carolina baseball. Have you covered that yet, or is that going to be the first time this year? I heard that.
I've covered them in the past. It's been a little while for me. I'm mixing things up a little bit from a sports standpoint, but I do enjoy covering that team. I enjoy covering Clemson too. Honestly, of any series, I covered a lot of different series in a lot of different parts of the country for Baseball America. And the most fun I had, other than Omaha, was covering Clemson and South Carolina. Like that series, how invested the fans are, and my dog might be barking right here, but I apologize for that.
Wow.
Just preparing you guys.
Your dog gets involved.
But that series is incredibly fun, and you just you love to see the passion from the fans, and it's part of what makes college sports so great, is because it just has that community feeling, and you're either a Clemson fan or you're a Gamecocks fan, so that's cool. So
and your dog agrees. Be sure
Absolutely.
to throw out there real quick before we go, where's the best place people can find you on Twitter, the social media, and how to read your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Lananna. That's MLANANNA. It's a little tricky, but that's where you can find me. And that's where you'll find most of my work. I'm over at thestate.com covering sports and news, and writing feature stories in Columbia, South Carolina, and around the state. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Glad to be able to catch up with someone who's been around these parts in the past, and I'm sure we'll hit you up down the line. That's Michael and Anna. Thanks so much for joining us this week on our Zoom Hangout.
Yeah, absolutely. And get some barbecue when you're in town.
Sounds like a plan.
Alrighty. Take care, guys.